This is ABC 7 News This Morning.
Well, testimony resumes this morning in Pennsylvania at the Jerry Sandusky trial. On Monday, jurors heard graphic testimony by one of Sandusky's alleged victims. He is accused of sexually abusing 10 boys over a period of 15 years, and Sandusky has pleaded not guilty.
Joining us this morning to talk more about this case is attorney Thomas Glasgow. Welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning to you both.
See you.
How effective do you think the state's presentation of the case was yesterday?
The presentation actually was very effective. They took all of the victims and put them together to make one good case. So instead of resting all the credibility on one person, they spread it out among all the victims and said, here are all the victims that are going to come forward, and they painted him as a serial predator, showing how he groomed these people to end up having sex with him at a young age.
But can the defense actually win any points in opening statements?
You know, that's very difficult, because when you get a case like this, you get a case where immediately the defense is kicked back on its heels. Just the allegations alone of sexual misconduct is enough to make most people reel in horror. They have already convicted the person in their mind, so the only way that they can attack the person is to say, well, you know, they've got some kind of other motive. What other motive do they have? Revenge? In this case, they're trying to say that because they filed civil suits, they have a monetary gain, they have a monetary incentive to try and make these stories up. That spreads a little thin when you've got all the people that have come forward. Maybe it would work with one, maybe two, but to have all of them is very difficult.
So there's a lot of strategy involved, exactly. But, I mean, how difficult could this case be to either prosecute or defend?
They're very easy to prosecute because you've got that scarlet letter of a sexual misconduct case. And, again, the jury, when they hear that, they automatically want to convict the person instead of giving them the benefit of the doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt. To defend them, they're even harder because you've got to go up against that. And when you've got multiple victims and multiple stories that sound the same, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now you've got 8 that they all sound the same. You're like, well, you know, this guy's already convicted.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about the NATO 3. And this is the first time state terrorism charges.
It's very interesting, yes.
What do you think? What do you make of this case? Is it a strong case?
Well, this is a reaction to 9/11. Most states, 36 states, ended up invoking these laws to support 9/11. Usually you have the federal prosecutors that come aboard. Usually you have prosecutors that come in and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and take this to the federal level. Last year, in 2011, 2010, there were 403 prosecutions for terrorism in the federal system. There were none in the state system. The most recent one that was successful, you may have remembered the Beltway Sniper, that was a state terrorism charge. We usually don't see these. This is a state prosecution, and they really don't have the experience that the federal prosecutors have. One has to question two things. First is, why did not the federal authorities get involved on the front end? Because you did have Secret Service there. You did have federal agents at the execution of a search warrant. And number two, why didn't the state just opt to go with state charges, such as possession of explosives or something along that nature? It makes it a little more difficult because defense attorneys have never seen a case like this before in the state courts, so you don't know which way to go. Likewise, the prosecutors have never seen this, so you don't know which way to go. Additionally, you don't know whether or not it's going to be challenged constitutionally. Where do you draw the line for terrorism? Do you draw it with a gangland shooting? Do you draw it with an explosive? Do you then extend this, like you've seen on your show with regard to the RICO, to various and sundry other crimes to make this a terroristic act to go out and kill a witness? That's something that's yet to be determined.
Wow, that's groundbreaking, nevertheless.
It is.
As always, thank you, sir.
Pleasure to see
both
both of you guys.
Us.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.